The training hall of Galactic Council Station Theta 7 stretched 300 meters in every direction. Marcus Chen stood at the edge of the combat arena, watching his fellow cadets practice. His hands were sweating inside his gloves. Around him, aliens of all shapes and sizes moved with confidence he could only dream of having. A Corinthian cadet named Zekthor stood nearly 3 meters tall. His blue skin was covered with natural armor plates that could stop a blade. He had 4 arms, each one stronger than both of Marcus's combined. Next to him, a Salvex female named Villana worked on a tactical problem. Her 2 sets of arms moved in perfect coordination, her large eyes taking in data faster than any human could process. Marcus was 19 years old. He was the only human at the academy. Earth had only joined the Galactic Council 5 years ago, and not many humans had passed the entrance tests. Marcus had studied hard, scored well on the written exams, and somehow made it in. But being smart on paper was different from surviving here. The other cadets did not hide their opinions about humans. Marcus heard the whispers every day. His species was weak. Humans had only 1 heart, so if it stopped, they died. They had thin skin that cut easily. Their bones broke under pressure. They could not see well in the dark. They could not hear high frequencies. They moved slowly compared to most species. Today was combat training. Marcus had already failed the last 3 physical tests. The obstacle course was designed for species that could jump 5 meters high. The strength test required lifting weights meant for creatures with 4 arms. The speed trial was built for beings who could run twice as fast as any human. Instructor Calvin, a massive reptilian Thuktar, called the cadets to attention. His voice boomed across the hall. Everyone lined up quickly. Marcus took his place at the end of the line, as always. Today we announced the final training exercise, Calvin said. His teeth were as long as Marcus's fingers. You will travel to Death World Karzak 9. You will survive for 5 days in teams of 5. You will face the environment, the wildlife, and each other. The team that performs best will graduate with honors. A death world. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Death worlds were planets so dangerous that most species could not survive on them. They had extreme temperatures, poisonous plants, and predators that had evolved in the harshest conditions. Only the strongest species ever attempted to colonize death worlds, and even they often failed. Zekthor laughed loudly. Finally a real challenge. Not these soft exercises designed for weak species. He looked directly at Marcus when he said it. Several other cadets joined in the laughter. Villana glanced at Marcus with what might have been sympathy. But she said nothing. No one ever defended him. It was not worth the social cost. Instructor Calvin read out the team assignments. Marcus listened carefully. When his name was called, his heart sank further. He was assigned to Zekthor's team. The universe had a cruel sense of humor. The team would also include Villana, a Thuktar named Gresh, and a floating gas being called Zil, 5 very different species. 4 of them clearly stronger than Marcus in obvious ways. After the announcement, the cadets were dismissed to prepare. Marcus walked to the equipment room alone. He gathered the basic survival gear that humans needed. Extra water purification tablets because his body could not handle most alien bacteria. A breathing filter, because some atmospheres had chemicals toxic to human lungs. A temperature regulation suit, because humans died quickly in extreme heat or cold. Zekthor appeared in the doorway. His shadow covered Marcus completely. Human, he said, his voice full of contempt. Try not to die in the first hour. It would look bad for the team if we had to carry your corpse back to the ship. Marcus turned to face him. He was tired of being scared. I will do my best to survive, he said quietly. Just like you. Zekthor's eyes narrowed. For a moment, Marcus thought the Corinthian might strike him. Violence between cadets was forbidden, but accidents happened. Instead, Zekthor laughed again. Your best. Yes, we will see what that means on a real death world. He turned and walked away. That night, Marcus lay in his quarters and studied everything he could find about Karzak 9. The planet had a surface temperature that swung from below freezing at night to dangerously hot during the day. The atmosphere was breathable but filled with spores from fungal forests. The water sources were contaminated with organisms that could kill most species within hours. But what really caught his attention was a note in the database about the apex predators. They were called Karzak hunters. The file did not have many details. It only said they were extremely dangerous, highly intelligent, and had killed entire survey teams. There were no good pictures. Just warnings. Avoid at all costs. Marcus read the entry 3 times. Something about it felt strange. The lack of information was unusual. The Galactic Council cataloged everything carefully. But for these creatures, there were only fragments, sightings, disappearances. No bodies ever recovered from the hunters themselves. No detailed studies, he made notes. Humans had one advantage that Marcus had learned about in his history classes. Humans had conquered Earth, which was classified as a 9.8 out of 10 on the Death World scale. Somehow his ancestors had not only survived, but thrived on a planet that should have killed them. They had done it without natural armor, without claws, without venom. They had done it with tools, cooperation, and something the textbooks called persistence. Marcus did not feel persistent. He felt scared. But fear had kept humans alive for thousands of years. Maybe it would keep him alive for 5 more days. The transport ship departed 2 days later. The journey to Karzak 9 took 18 hours. Marcus spent most of it reviewing survival techniques. The other members of his team mostly ignored him. Zekthor made occasional comments about how Marcus would slow them down. Gresh the Thuktar said nothing but watched Marcus with cold reptilian eyes. Sil, the gas being, communicated through a translator device and seemed uninterested in team dynamics. Velana worked on her tactical computer, analyzing maps and threat assessments. When they entered orbit around Karzak 9, Marcus looked out the viewport. The planet was covered in dark green forests and gray mountains. Storms swirled across the surface. It looked angry. The instructor's voice came over the ship's communication system. Teams will be dropped at separate locations. Your advanced technology will not function due to electromagnetic interference from the planet's core. You will use basic tools only. Your goal is to reach the extraction point in 5 days, survive, work together, prove you deserve to graduate. Marcus checked his gear one last time. Basic tools. No advanced scanners. No energy weapons. No communication devices that worked beyond a few meters. Just him. 4 aliens who thought he was useless and a planet that killed for sport. The drop pod shook as it fell through the atmosphere. Marcus gripped his harness. This was it, 5 days. He just needed to survive 5 days. The pod hit the ground hard. The door opened with a hiss. Hot, humid air rolled in. Marcus could smell the fungal forests immediately. It was like rotting vegetation mixed with something bitter. Zekthor was the first one out. He stretched all 4 arms and looked around with satisfaction. Finally. A real environment. Gresh followed, his armored body moving smoothly over the rough ground. Chill floated out, his gaseous form shimmering in the strange light. Velana emerged last, already scanning the area with her sharp eyes. Marcus stepped out into his first death world. His hands were shaking, but his feet were steady, 1 step at a time. That was how humans had always survived, 1 step at a time. The first 3 hours on Karzak 9 taught Marcus more about survival than any classroom ever had. The team moved through the fungal forest, following Velana's navigation. She had memorized the maps before they landed and was leading them toward higher ground where they could make camp. The forest was darker than Marcus expected. The massive fungi grew as tall as earth trees, their caps blocking out much of the sunlight. Everything was damp. Water dripped constantly from the fungal caps above. The ground was soft and treacherous, covered in layers of decomposing organic matter. Zekthor moved through the terrain easily, his powerful legs carrying him over obstacles that Marcus had to climb around. Gresh's armored body let him push through dense patches of smaller fungi without concern. Sil simply floated above most of the problems. Even Velana, with her 4 arms, could grip multiple surfaces at once and pull herself up difficult slopes. Marcus struggled. His human body was not designed for this. He slipped in the mud. He had to find careful paths around obstacles the others simply powered through. He fell behind within the first hour. "The human is slowing us down," Zekthor announced loudly. He had stopped at the top of a ridge and was looking back at Marcus, who was still climbing. "Perhaps we should leave him behind." "He will never make it 5 days anyway." "We are a team," Velana said. Her voice was calm but firm. "We succeed together or fail together. Those are the rules." "Then we will fail because of the weak link," Zekthor replied. But he waited. Marcus reached the top of the ridge, breathing hard. He did not apologize. Apologizing would just confirm their beliefs about him. Instead, he pulled out his water container and took a careful drink. He had to ration it. Humans needed more water than most species, and finding safe sources here would be difficult. They continued. By midday, the temperature had risen significantly. The humidity became oppressive. Marcus's temperature regulation suit helped, but he could feel the strain. He was sweating heavily, losing water fast. Valana called for a rest stop near a small clearing. "We need to establish a water source," she said. "There is a stream marked on the map about 1 kilometer south." "The water here is contaminated," Gresh said. It was the first time he had spoken since landing. His voice was deep and rough. "Most species cannot drink it safely." "I can process it," Zekthor said. "Corinthian biology can handle most toxins." "I do not require water," Zill's translator announced. Valana looked at Marcus. "Can you purify it with your equipment?" Marcus nodded. "I have tablets. They work slowly, but they will make it safe enough for human consumption. I cannot guarantee they will work for Salvex biology." "I will manage," Valana said. They reached the stream as the afternoon heat peaked. Marcus knelt by the water and examined it. It was cloudy, filled with sediment and probably dozens of microorganisms. He filled his container, added 2 purification tablets, and sealed it. The process would take an hour. While they waited, Valana worked on setting up a basic shelter. Zekthor and Gresh cleared the area of potentially dangerous fungi. Marcus studied the local plant life, trying to identify anything useful or dangerous based on his training. That was when things went wrong. Gresh suddenly stiffened. "Something is moving," he said quietly. Large, multiple signatures, everyone froze. Marcus's heart started pounding. He slowly stood up and scanned the forest. At first he saw nothing. Then he noticed movement in the shadows between the fungi. Something big. No, several big things. They emerged from the darkness like nightmares. 6-legged creatures, each one the size of a small vehicle. They had thick armored shells and massive mandibles that looked like they could crush metal. Their eyes glowed with a faint yellow light. "Karzak beetles," Valana whispered. "The database mentioned them, aggressive, territorial." "How aggressive?" Marcus asked quietly. "Very," she replied. The beetles began to circle the team. There were 5 of them. They moved slowly, deliberately. This was not a surprise attack. This was a hunt. They were evaluating their prey. "We fight or run?" Gresh asked. "We fight," Zekthor said immediately. He flexed his forearms ready for combat. "Running from prey is shameful." "We are the prey right now," Marcus said. "And there are 5 of them." "The human is right," Valana said. "We need a strategy." One of the beetles charged. It moved faster than Marcus expected. Gresh met it head-on, his armored body colliding with the creature. The impact sounded like thunder. The beetle was pushed back but not defeated. It circled around for another attack. 2 more beetles rushed forward. Zekthor grabbed one with his forearms, trying to flip it over. The beetle thrashed violently. Joe released some kind of corrosive gas that made another beetle retreat, but only temporarily. Marcus saw the pattern. The beetles were testing them, looking for the weakest member. And he knew who that was. One beetle had separated from the group and was moving toward him specifically. He did not have armor. He did not have forearms. He did not have corrosive gas. What he had was a human brain that had evolved to find solutions. Marcus grabbed a thick branch from the ground. As the beetle charged, he did not try to meet it with strength. Instead, he sidestepped at the last moment and jammed the branch into the joint where the beetle's leg met its body. The creature stumbled, its momentum working against it. The beetle recovered quickly, but Marcus was already moving. He picked up a heavy stone and threw it. Humans were the only species in the known galaxy that could throw with accuracy. The stone hit the beetle's eye cluster. The creature recoiled, confused and hurt. "The eyes!" Marcus shouted. "Aim for their eyes!" Valana understood immediately. She grabbed several stones and threw them with all 4 arms. Her aim was not as good as Marcus's, but with 4 throws at once, she hit 2 beetles. Zekthor, who had been trying to wrestle his beetle into submission, changed tactics. He grabbed a sharp piece of fungal stalk and drove it toward the creature's face. The beetles, suddenly injured and unable to see clearly, began to retreat. They were predators, but they were not stupid. Injured predators did not survive long. Better to find easier prey. Within minutes, the beetles had disappeared back into the forest. The team stood in silence, breathing hard. Marcus's hands were shaking from adrenaline. Zekthor looked at Marcus. For a moment, the Corinthian's expression was unreadable. Then he spoke. The throwing. That was effective. It was not praise exactly, but it was not mockery either. Marcus nodded in acknowledgement. They made camp that night in a more defensible position on higher ground. As the sun set, the temperature dropped rapidly. Marcus added an insulation layer to his suit. The others seemed less affected by the cold, but he noticed Velana moving closer to the small fire they had built. Tomorrow will be harder, Velana said quietly. We have 3 more days to reach the extraction point. The terrain gets rougher. We will make it, Gresh said. We work together. Even Zekthor nodded agreement. Marcus felt something shift. They were not friends, but maybe, just maybe, they were becoming a real team. Marcus took the first watch. As his teammates rested, he sat on a rock and watched the dark forest. Strange sounds echoed through the night, calls of creatures he could not identify. The fungal forest seemed alive in a way that was both beautiful and terrifying. He thought about the beetles, about how the team had survived, about how his human trick of throwing had actually helped. Maybe there was something to the old Earth stories. Maybe humans did have advantages that were not obvious. They just needed the right situation to use them. 3 hours into his watch, Marcus heard something different. Not the random sounds of the forest. This was deliberate, rhythmic like footsteps, but heavier than any beetle. Much heavier. He stood up slowly and peered into the darkness. His human eyes were not good in low light, but he had learned to use other senses. He listened carefully. The footsteps were getting closer. Whatever was making them was big. Very big. Marcus's hand went to the signal device on his belt. Should he wake the others? The footsteps stopped. Silence fell. Marcus held his breath, then he saw it. Just a glimpse in the shadows. A massive shape, easily 4 meters tall. 6 limbs, covered in what looked like natural armor. But there was something different about this creature. Something intelligent in the way it moved. This was not a mindless predator. This was something else entirely. The shape watched the camp for a long moment. Marcus could feel its eyes on him, studying him. Then, as silently as it had appeared, it melted back into the forest. Marcus's heart was racing. He knew what he had just seen. A Karzak hunter. The apex predator the database had warned about. And it had been watching them. Watching him. He did not wake the others. There was no point. The hunter was gone, and causing panic would not help. But Marcus did not sleep for the rest of his watch. He kept his eyes on the forest, wondering if they were being hunted, and if so, what the hunter was waiting for. Day 2 began with rain. Not the gentle rain of earth, but a heavy downpour that turned the forest floor into a swamp. The team packed their gear and continued toward the extraction point. Marcus's boots were soaked within an hour. His feet would develop blisters soon, but complaining would accomplish nothing. They made good progress despite the conditions. Velana had calculated a route that avoided the worst terrain. By midday, they had covered nearly 15 kilometers. Only 40 more to go, but the rain brought problems. The streams they needed to cross were now swollen and dangerous. The soft ground made travel exhausting. Worst of all, the rain seemed to wake up every creature in the forest. The team encountered 3 more species of predators, each one testing their defenses before moving on. Marcus noticed something during these encounters. The other team members were starting to tire. Zekthor's powerful body was designed for short bursts of strength, not extended endurance. Gresh's armor was heavy, and even his strong legs were beginning to slow. Velana was holding up better, but Marcus could see the strain in her movements. Meanwhile, Marcus felt tired but steady. Humans had evolved as persistence hunters. His body was built for this kind of sustained effort. He would not win a sprint, but he could keep going hour after hour after hour. By late afternoon, Zekthor called for a rest. The Corinthian sat heavily on a fallen fungal stalk, his breathing labored. This heat, he muttered. It drains the strength. Marcus looked at him with concern. Zekthor's skin had changed color slightly, becoming darker blue. That was a bad sign. You need to cool down, Marcus said. And drink more water. I am fine, Zekthor snapped. But his voice lacked its usual force. You are overheating, Velana said quietly. She had moved next to Marcus and was examining Zekthor with concern. Corinthian biology does not regulate temperature well in humid conditions. Marcus remembered his training. Different species had different weaknesses. Corinthians were incredibly strong and tough. but their bodies generated a lot of heat. In their home environment, that was not a problem. Here, in the humid heat of a death world, it was dangerous. "There is a stream nearby," Marcus said. "We should get him into the water to cool down. And we need to rest during the hottest part of the day, travel at dawn and dusk instead." "Humans are weak," Zekthor said, but there was no strength in the insult. "You need to rest." "Not me." "Actually," Velana said, studying her datapad, "human endurance ratings are quite high. They evolved on a death world with extreme temperature variations. Their cooling system is very efficient." She looked at Marcus with new interest. "You are barely sweating." "I am sweating a lot," Marcus corrected. "That is how humans cool down. We sweat and the water evaporates, taking heat with it. It works well in humid conditions if you have enough water." "Fascinating," Velana said. "And inefficient for short-term survival, but excellent for long-term endurance." They moved Zekthor to the stream. The Corinthian sat in the cool water, and slowly his skin began to return to its normal color. Gresh stood guard while Zil floated above, watching for threats. Marcus refilled everyone's water containers and added purification tablets where needed. As they rested, Marcus explained what he knew about persistence hunting. How ancient humans on Earth would track prey for hours, sometimes days. How they would not catch the prey through speed or strength, but by simply refusing to stop. The prey would run, rest, run again, but the humans would just keep coming. Eventually, the prey would collapse from exhaustion and the humans would make their kill. "That is horrifying," Velana said quietly. "To be hunted by something that never stops." "It is efficient," Marcus replied with a small smile. "Not as dramatic as a Corinthian warrior charging into battle, but effective." Zekthor looked at Marcus with an expression that might have been respect, or maybe just reluctant acceptance. "Perhaps there is more to humans than I thought," he admitted. They continued as the sun began to set. The temperature dropped, which helped everyone. They covered another 8 kilometers before making camp for the night. Marcus estimated they were about halfway to the extraction point. 2.5 days remained. That night, Marcus took second watch. Gresh woke him a few hours after sunset. The Thuktar said nothing, but nodded once before settling down to rest. Progress, Marcus thought. A few days ago, Gresh would not have trusted him with guard duty. An hour into his watch, Marcus heard the footsteps again. The same heavy, deliberate rhythm he had heard the night before. The Karzak hunter was back. This time, Marcus did not freeze. He stood slowly and turned toward the sound. His hand rested on the knife at his belt, though he knew it would be useless against a creature that size. The hunter emerged from the shadows. In the dim light of the moons, Marcus could see it more clearly. It stood on 4 legs with 2 powerful arms that ended in clawed hands. Its body was covered in thick, scarred chitin armor. Its head was elongated with multiple eyes that glowed faintly yellow in the darkness. But what struck Marcus most was the intelligence in those eyes. This was not an animal. This was a sentient being. A person. The hunter stopped about 10 meters from the camp. It studied Marcus in silence. Marcus forced himself to stay calm. Running would trigger a chase instinct. Fighting was impossible. The only option was to stand his ground and show no fear, even though his heart was pounding. Slowly, carefully, the hunter raised one clawed hand to its chest. Then it extended the hand forward, palm up. The gesture was deliberate and formal. Marcus did not understand, but something in the gesture felt like a greeting. Like a test, he mimicked the movement, placing his hand on his chest and then extending it forward, palm up. The hunter's eyes seemed to brighten. It made a sound, deep and rumbling. Then it spoke in broken galactic common, its voice like rocks grinding together. "You human, you understand the long hunt." Marcus's mind reeled. The hunter spoke. It knew what humans were. This was not a random encounter. This creature had been watching them, studying him specifically. "I do not understand," Marcus said carefully, keeping his voice low so as not to wake his teammates. "What is the long hunt?" The hunter tilted its head. "You show it yesterday. Chase the prey with no strength. Chase with patience. Chase with the mind. The beetles run. You do not chase fast. You wait, you think. You strike when ready. This is the long hunt." Marcus thought about the beetle encounter, how he had not tried to overpower the creature but had used strategy, how he had waited for the right moment. Was that what the hunter meant? And today, the hunter continued. "Your pack moves. The strong one grows weak. You do not grow weak. You move steady. Like stone. Like water. Always moving. Never stopping. This is also the long hunt. The persistence. The endurance. The hunter had been watching them all day, Marcus realized. Studying how they moved, how they survived. My species evolved as persistence hunters, Marcus said. We are not the fastest or strongest, but we do not give up. We keep going. The hunter made a sound that might have been approval. Yes, like my people. We are Karzak. We hunt the long hunt. Others come to this world. They are strong, fast, armored. They die because they do not understand. Strength is nothing without will. Speed is nothing without patience. Marcus felt something shift in his understanding. The Karzak hunters were not mindless predators. They were persistence hunters like humans. They had evolved on this death world by being smarter and more patient than their prey. We have watched humans, the hunter said, for many cycles. Your people come to study our world. They move like us, patient, careful, they do not rush. They survive. We see kinship. Kinship, Marcus repeated. The word felt significant. The hunter lowered itself slightly, almost like a bow. I am Kreshkar. Pack leader. I extend invitation. Tomorrow you hunt with us. You learn our ways. We learn yours. This is rare honor. No off-worlder has hunted with Karzak in 300 cycles. Marcus's mind raced. Hunt with the apex predators of a death world? It sounded insane, but it was also an incredible opportunity. A chance to learn from creatures that had mastered survival in one of the harshest environments in the galaxy. I am honored, Marcus said, choosing his words carefully, but my team needs me. We must reach the extraction point together. Kreshkar made a gesture that might have been understanding. The hunt is one day. One night. You will return before the sun sets tomorrow. Your pack will be safe. I give word. The word of a Karzak hunter. Marcus had no idea what that meant, but the creature's tone suggested it was binding. A promise, I accept, Marcus said. Kreshkar's eyes brightened again. Good. When the sun rises, come to the eastern ridge. Alone. We begin the long hunt. You will learn what it means to be brother to the Karzak. Brother. The word echoed in Marcus's mind. This creature, this apex predator from a death world, was calling him brother, not because of strength or speed, but because they shared the same approach to survival, the same refusal to quit. Kreshkar turned and melted back into the forest as silently as it had appeared. Marcus stood alone in the darkness, trying to process what had just happened. When Valana came to relieve him for the next watch, Marcus told her everything. She listened without interruption, her 4 eyes wide with disbelief. This is unprecedented, she said quietly. The database says Karzak hunters are impossibly dangerous. Dawn came with a red sky. Marcus explained to his team where he was going. Zekthor's reaction was immediate and loud. You are insane, the Corinthian said flatly. These creatures have killed entire military squads. You will not return. He gave his word, Marcus replied. Kreshkar promised I would be safe. The word of a monster, Zekthor said. The word of a person, Marcus corrected. They are not monsters. They are hunters. Like humans used to be, like humans still are in some ways, Gresh spoke quietly. If the human does not return by sunset, we search for him. It was agreed. Marcus took only basic supplies and his knife. He left the camp and walked toward the eastern ridge. His hands were shaking slightly, but he kept moving. Fear was natural. Giving in to fear was the mistake. Kreshkar was waiting at the ridge with 5 other Karzak. They stood in a loose circle, their armored bodies still as stone. When Marcus approached, they all turned to look at him. 6 pairs of glowing yellow eyes studied the small human. You came, Kreshkar said. There was approval in his voice. Many would not. Fear is strong, but you are stronger. This is good. Kreshkar gestured to the others. My pack, Velkar my second, Threshna our tracker, Kolmir our scout, Jeshra and Vornak our hunters. Today you hunt with us. Today you are pack. Each Karzak nodded as they were introduced. Marcus tried to memorize their names and features. Velkar had a distinctive scar across one eye. Threshna was slightly smaller than the others, built for speed. Kolmir had unusual markings on his armor. Jeshra and Vornak moved in perfect synchronization like they shared one mind. What are we hunting? Marcus asked. Rival, Kreshkar said simply. Another apex hunter. Not Karzak. Comes from the deep forest. Kills our young. Takes our territory. We have tracked it for 3 days. Today we end it. a territorial dispute between apex predators. Marcus realized he was about to participate in something most xenobiologists would study for years to see once. The pack began to move. They did not rush. They moved with careful, deliberate steps, testing the ground, reading signs Marcus could barely see. Threshna led, her eyes scanning constantly. The others followed in a loose formation that kept Marcus protected in the center. As they traveled, Kreshkar explained the philosophy of the long hunt. It was not about speed or strength. It was about patience, observation, and understanding your prey better than it understood itself. A good hunter did not chase blindly. A good hunter learned patterns, predicted movements, and struck when the prey was weakest. Your species understands this, Kreshkar said. We have studied human history. Your ancestors hunted creatures much larger than themselves. They did not have claws or armor, but they had minds. They had tools. They had the will to continue when others would stop. Marcus thought about the old stories from Earth. Humans hunting mammoths with primitive spears, chasing antelope across savannas for hours until the animals collapsed from exhaustion, building traps using fire, working together. His ancestors had not been the strongest predators, but they had been the most persistent. They tracked for 6 hours. Marcus learned to read the signs Threshna pointed out. Broken branches that indicated direction, claw marks on fungal stalks that showed height and reach, droppings that revealed diet and health. The Karzak were teaching him, sharing knowledge that took them years to learn. Around midday, they stopped at a water source. Marcus was tired but managing. His human endurance was serving him well. The Karzak seemed pleased that he could keep pace. "You do not slow us," Velkar said. It was the first time the scarred Karzak had spoken directly to Marcus. "Good. Weak pack members die. Strong pack members survive together," they continued. The terrain grew rougher as they entered deeper forest. The fungal growths here were ancient, some as large as Earth's redwood trees. The air was thick with spores that made breathing difficult even with Marcus's filter. Threshna suddenly stopped and made a hand signal. Everyone froze. Marcus followed their gaze and saw it. In a clearing ahead, the rival predator was resting. It was massive, even larger than the Karzak. 8-legged, with a thick carapace covered in bony spikes. Its head was dominated by powerful mandibles that could crush stone. This was a creature built purely for killing. Kreshkar made several quick hand signals. The pack spread out, surrounding the clearing. Marcus stayed with Kreshkar, understanding that his role was to observe, not fight. He was not equipped to face something like this. But then something went wrong. The creature suddenly stood and looked directly at Marcus. Its attention had bypassed the Karzak entirely and focused on the human. Marcus realized with horror that it saw him as prey. The easiest target, the creature charged. It moved with terrifying speed. Marcus had seconds to react. His human brain, evolved for crisis situations, kicked into overdrive. He could not outrun it. He could not fight it. But he could use the environment. Marcus ran toward a cluster of large fungal stalks. The creature followed, its 8 legs tearing up the ground. At the last moment, Marcus dodged sideways. The creature tried to turn, but its momentum was too great. It crashed into the fungal stalks with tremendous force. The stalks, weakened by rot, collapsed on top of the creature. It was not enough to kill it, but it was disoriented and partially trapped. That was when the Karzak struck. They moved with perfect coordination. Velkar and Kolmir attacked from the sides, their claws finding weak points in the armor. Jeshura and Vornak targeted the legs, making it harder for the creature to stand. Threshna went for the eyes, blinding it. Kreshkar delivered the killing blow, his powerful jaws finding the soft spot at the base of the skull. It was over in less than a minute. The creature collapsed and went still. The pack stepped back, breathing hard but victorious. Kreshkar looked at Marcus. "You used the hunt trick. The prey becomes predator trick. You made the rival use its strength against itself. This is advanced hunting. You have instinct." Marcus was shaking from adrenaline. He had almost died, but he had also helped take down an apex predator by using his brain instead of fighting directly. The pack performed a ritual over the fallen creature. It was respectful, acknowledging the rival's strength and place in the ecosystem. They took pieces of its carapace as trophies, and Kreshkar offered one to Marcus. "You earned this," Kreshkar said. "You are pack now. You are brother to Karzak." The other Karzak approached one by one. Each made the chest-to-palm gesture Marcus had learned. Each spoke a single word in their language. Marcus understood the meaning even without translation. Acceptance. They began the journey back as the sun started to descend. Marcus was exhausted, his muscles aching and his feet blistered, but he felt something he had not felt since arriving at the academy. Pride. Not arrogant pride, but the quiet satisfaction of knowing he had earned his place. Kreshkar walked beside him. "Your people will go far in the galaxy," the Karzak leader said, "because you understand what others do not. True strength is not in the body. It is in the spirit that refuses to quit. It is in the mind that finds solutions. It is in the heart that keeps beating no matter what." "My species has a saying," Marcus replied. "Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Kreshkar's eyes brightened. "Yes, that is the long hunt. That is brotherhood. You understand." They reached the eastern ridge as the sun touched the horizon. Marcus could see his team's camp below. Velana saw him and immediately signaled the others. They stood and waited. "Go to your pack," Kreshkar said. "Complete your trial. But know this. You are always welcome in Karzak territory. Always welcome to hunt with us. This is rare honor. Only 3 off-worlders in all of history have earned it. You are the 4th. "I am honored beyond words," Marcus said. "Thank you, Kreshkar." "Thank you, Pack." The Karzak performed their gesture one final time. Then they turned and disappeared into the darkening forest, silent as shadows. Marcus walked down to his team. They stared at him in silence. He was covered in mud and scratches. He carried a trophy from an apex predator. He looked like he had been through a war. Zekthor spoke first. "You survived." There was genuine surprise in his voice. "You hunted with the Karzak hunters and survived." "I did more than survive," Marcus said quietly. "I learned. About them. About myself. About what it means to be a predator in a galaxy that judges strength in the wrong ways." Velana examined the carapace trophy with wide eyes. "This is from a greater spine hunter, one of the most dangerous creatures on this planet." "You helped kill it?" "I helped," Marcus confirmed. "Not with strength. With strategy. With the tools humans have always used." The team was silent. Something had changed. Marcus could see it in their eyes. He was no longer the weak link. He was no longer the human who would hold them back. He was a teammate who had proven himself in the most extreme way possible. "We should rest," Gresh said finally. "Tomorrow we finish the journey. Together." That night around the fire, Marcus told them about the hunt, about the Karzak philosophy, about how persistence and patience could overcome raw power. His teammates listened carefully, seeing the death world and its apex predators in a new light. And for the first time since joining the academy, Marcus felt like he belonged. The final 2 days of the trial passed quickly. The team moved with new efficiency, reaching the extraction point a full day early. The dynamic had changed completely. Zekthor no longer made dismissive comments. Instead, he asked Marcus questions about human hunting techniques and endurance strategies. Gresh shared his rations when Marcus's ran low. Velana spent hours discussing the implications of the Karzak encounter for xenobiology. Even Zil, who had remained distant, acknowledged Marcus with respect. The team had become what it was supposed to be from the start: a unit. Pack. When the extraction shuttle arrived, all 5 teams were present. Marcus's team was the first to reach the point, which earned surprised looks from the other cadets. The team that included the weak human had performed the best. The journey back to Theta 7 took 18 hours. Marcus spent most of it sleeping. His body needed rest after 5 days of constant physical and mental strain. When he woke, Velana was studying her datapad intensely. "I have been researching human history," she said when she noticed Marcus was awake. "Your planet, Earth. The classification is 9.8 on the Death World scale. That is higher than Karzak 9, higher than almost any planet in the known galaxy." Marcus nodded. He had learned this in school but had not thought much about it. Earth was just home. "We evolved there," he said. "So it seems normal to us." "Normal," Velana repeated, her voice filled with something like awe. "Your planet has survived multiple mass extinction events. Ice ages, volcanic winters, asteroid impacts, and your species not only survived but spread to every environment. Deserts, frozen tundra, dense jungles, mountain peaks. You conquered all of them with no natural armor, no venom, no enhanced senses, just tools and the refusal to quit. And cooperation," Marcus added. "Humans work together. We share knowledge. We teach our young. We take care of our old and injured. That was as important as any tool. Velana looked at him with her large eyes. The galaxy has underestimated your species. We looked at your physical form and saw weakness. We did not look at your history. We did not understand that you are persistence predators who survived on one of the most hostile worlds in existence. That makes you dangerous in ways we never considered. Not dangerous, Marcus said carefully. Resilient. There is a difference. Perhaps, Velana said, but resilience can be more threatening than aggression. An enemy you can defeat in battle is manageable. An enemy that simply will not stop, that keeps coming no matter how many times you strike it down, that is terrifying on a deeper level. Marcus thought about that. About the Karzak, and how they had recognized the same trait in humans that defined themselves. About how persistence had shaped human evolution more than any other factor. When they arrived at Theta 7, word of Marcus's encounter with the Karzak had already spread. Somehow the story had leaked. He walked through the station's corridors and noticed other cadets staring at him. Not with mockery now, with curiosity, with respect, with something that might have been concern. The graduation ceremony was held 3 days later. All 5 teams had passed, but Marcus's team received the highest honors. When Instructor Calvin called Marcus's name, the assembled cadets did not whisper or laugh. They stood and performed the traditional salute of acknowledgement, but the ceremony was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. A shuttle arrived carrying diplomatic credentials from Karzak 9. Kreshkar himself stepped out, accompanied by Velkar. The entire station went into alert mode. Karzak hunters did not leave their world. They never visited other species voluntarily. The massive Karzak walked through the station with calm confidence, ignoring the armed guards that shadowed them. They entered the graduation hall and every cadet fell silent. Apex predators from a death world standing among them. Kreshkar's eyes found Marcus immediately. The Karzak leader approached and performed the chest-to-palm gesture. Marcus returned it, his heart pounding. "I come to make formal declaration," Kreshkar announced in Galactic Common. His voice carried across the hall. "Marcus Chen of Earth has been adopted into the Karzak pack. He is brother to our people. He carries our protection. Any who threaten him threaten us. This is law. This is bond. This is forever." Velkar stepped forward carrying something wrapped in dark cloth. He presented it to Marcus. When Marcus unwrapped it, he found ceremonial scars carved into pieces of treated leather. They were designed to be worn on the arm as a mark of honor. "Only 3 others in history have received this," Kreshkar said. "You are the 4th. You are family. The Karzak do not forget family." Marcus accepted the gift with shaking hands. "I am honored beyond measure," he said. "I will wear this with pride." Kreshkar looked at the assembled cadets and instructors. "The galaxy does not understand humans. You see them as soft, weak. This is mistake. Dangerous mistake. Humans are persistence hunters from a death world. They survived what would kill most species. They conquered their planet through will and cooperation. They are kindred to Karzak. They are apex species in ways you have not recognized. Dismiss them at your own risk." The Karzak leader's words hung in the air. Then he performed the gesture one more time toward Marcus and turned to leave. Velkar followed. They departed as suddenly as they had arrived, leaving the entire hall in stunned silence. Instructor Calvin was the first to recover. He looked at Marcus with an expression that might have been respect. Or fear, or both. "Cadet Chen," he said slowly, "it appears the galaxy has much to learn about your species." The ceremony continued, but everything had changed. Marcus Chen was no longer just a cadet. He was a symbol, proof that humans were not the weak species others had assumed. In the days that followed, the story spread throughout the Galactic Council. Military analysts began reviewing human capabilities with new attention. Xenobiologists started requesting access to human evolutionary data. Diplomatic corps began treating Earth representatives with increased respect. The Galactic Council's classification of humans was updated. No longer were they listed as potential auxiliary forces. The new classification read strategic assets with apex characteristics. The description noted human endurance, adaptability, tool use, cooperative behavior, and most importantly, psychological resilience in extreme conditions. Marcus was offered an instructor position at the academy. His role would be to teach survival techniques based on human methods, to share the knowledge of persistence hunting, endurance strategies, and the mental tactics that had kept humans alive on a death world. he accepted. On his first day as an instructor, he stood before a class of cadets from 20 different species. They looked at him with a mix of curiosity and wariness. The armbands marking his adoption into the Karzak pack were visible for all to see. "My name is Marcus Chen," he began. "I am human. My species evolved on a planet classified as 9.8 on the Death World scale. We survived because we learned one fundamental truth. Strength is not about how hard you can hit. It is about how many times you can be hit and keep standing. It is about the refusal to quit when quitting would be easier. It is about working together to overcome challenges that seem impossible alone." He paused and looked at each cadet. "This course will teach you human survival techniques, persistence hunting, endurance running, tool crafting, strategic thinking, but more than that, it will teach you the philosophy that kept humans alive for millions of years. The philosophy that the Karzak hunters recognized in us, the philosophy of the long hunt." The cadets leaned forward, listening intently. No one was laughing. No one was dismissing him as weak. They were learning that there were different kinds of strength, different ways to be powerful. Among the cadets, Marcus spotted a young Corinthian in the back row. The student looked remarkably similar to Zekthor, perhaps a younger sibling. The Corinthian raised one of his forehands tentatively. "Yes?" Marcus said. "Instructor Chen," the Corinthian said carefully. "My brother told me about you. About the trial on Karzak 9. He said you changed his understanding of strength. Is it true that humans can run for days without stopping?" Marcus smiled. "It is true. With proper training and pacing, a human can run for incredible distances. We evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. In Earth's history, there are records of humans running over 100 kilometers in a single session. Not fast, but steady, always moving. Never stopping." The cadets exchanged glances. Some looked skeptical. Others looked thoughtful. The Corinthian spoke again. "My brother said the galaxy made a mistake. That humans are predators wearing prey's clothing. That we should be very careful about making humans into enemies." "Your brother is wise," Marcus said. "But he is also wrong about one thing. Humans do not want enemies. We want allies. We want cooperation. We survived on Earth by working together, not by fighting each other. That is our real strength. Not that we can hunt you down if you run, but that we would rather walk beside you instead." The class absorbed this. Marcus could see understanding dawning in their eyes. Humans were not weak, but they were also not aggressive conquerors. They were survivors who preferred cooperation to conflict, but who could outlast anyone if pushed. That evening, Marcus stood on an observation deck looking out at the stars. So many worlds out there, so many species, each one with their own strengths and weaknesses, each one valuable in their own way.